Well, greetings everybody. Happy Friday. We're here in the United States. We have a holiday weekend. A lot of people are out taking holiday vacations, traveling, so forth. And am I breaking in and out? Is my sound not good right now? But can you guys hear me okay? Okay. All right. But yeah, a lot of people are going off on vacations and stuff, and then, but that's not the whole world. I mean, over in other countries that listen to us here on the radio as well. It's not going to be a vacation day for them, but we're all one body, you know. We're one body, and one body of people, one body of humanity, one body of creation. This week, I've been meditating and contemplating on kind of like what it means to walk in the light, because I've heard that term before, walk in the light. You know, I've heard it from not only biblical sources, but other sources of scripture as well. And other people of diverse and a variety of faiths have used that expression of walking in the light, you know. And I'm reminded of a proverb that King Solomon said. He said that the path of the righteous is like the morning sun, shining ever brighter till the full light of the day. So there's this path of righteous, of being. When I say the path of the righteous, whenever I use that word righteous, I like to look at it as not being what we would normally think it to be, but more something like a space that we can be in, a space of willingness, a space of receptivity, a space of openness, of heart and mind, that we to where we're just right. We're just in sync and in tune and in right with the life that's here right now. And that's kind of the way I understand righteousness. You know, I don't understand it so much as a religious term. It's more like a space of being to me. And but he said that the path of the righteous, you know, those that are in sync, in tune, in time with life, is like the morning sun shining ever brighter till the full light of day. So this path that the righteous take, it becomes clearer and clearer and clearer as time goes on, till the end of time, till the light of the full day. So there's this clarity that comes to people who are in that space of righteousness, you know, of not being in opposition to what's here, what's now, what's present, but willing to be present and alive in the midst of whatever's going on right here, right now. With a willingness to keep company with the things that surround us that are right here, right now. But there's this clarity that comes as time goes on, as we stay in that space, as we abide in that space, as we dwell in that space of righteousness. Some might call that under the shadow of God's wings. Other people might call it different things, but in that space of righteousness, as we abide there, stay there, things grow clear from that position of being, from that posture of openness. Things become clearer and clearer and clearer as time goes on. Now, when I say clearer and clearer and clearer as time goes on, I'm not talking about knowledge, that we gain more knowledge, that we know more formulas, that we know more philosophy, that we know more about this or about that. Because see, all that stuff, all that kind of knowledge comes by taking things apart. And this clarity that comes, it doesn't come by taking things apart, trying to figure them out. It comes by simply letting things be completely with everything else. The clarity, what becomes clearer and clearer and clearer, is that we don't know. that we don't even begin to know the depth and the glory and of the love of God, of the presence of God, of the life that's here right now. What becomes clearer and clearer and clearer isn't that we gain more knowledge. The knowledge doesn't make things clearer. But what becomes clearer and clearer and clearer is that we know nothing. That we know nothing. And it's when we get all those beliefs out of the way, all those knowings out of the way, all those thinkings out of the way, all those ideas out of the way, that that there's a clear line of sight, and things become obvious. When all the beliefs and ideas and notions of right and wrong and everything else are cleared out of the way, then the way is prepared, and it's just obvious. And then we begin to know things intuitively. We begin just to see. It's just like when the light comes in, you just see. So it's getting things out of the way and letting the light flow in. That brings on this clarity to us. I sat and I meditated on a lot of things this week about walking in the light. One piece of scripture that I did come across was a psalm of David. And David, in the psalm, I think it was like the last line of the psalm, he says this, King David said, "For you have delivered me from death and my feet from stumbling, that I may walk before God in the light of life." He said that you've delivered me from death and my feet from stumbling, that I may walk before God in the light of life. In the light of life. Walk before God in the light of life. On this, in the light of life. What is the light of life? What is the light of life? What the light of life is the consciousness of life in the present moment. It's the consciousness of the life that's here in the present moment, of life itself. It's not in the light of my life or your life or this life or that life or life out in space or life here on earth. It's nothing like that at all. It's in the light of life as being one life, not this life and that life, not here nor there, not now nor later, but one life, in the light of the one life, the life. So there's this way to walk before God in the consciousness of being one with all of life. Wow. A consciousness of being one with all of life. The whole ball of wax, all of it. So to walk in that light is to walk in that consciousness of the oneness, right? It's to walk in the consciousness of that oneness. And isn't that really what love is? If we look deeply, we can see that's kind of what love is. That's kind of what it's the awareness of that being one with everything, with that belonging with everything belonging with me, So there's this consciousness of oneness, of belonging, I like to call it love. Yeah, love is a good word for it. And from that consciousness of oneness arise what the Bible would call the fruits of the Spirit. The fruits of the Spirit. From that consciousness of oneness come forth these manifestations of being the loving presence that we are. Of being this loving presence that we are. From the consciousness of that oneness comes forth this things like meekness and gentleness and peace and joy. Good things like that seem to they appear. They grow out of that consciousness. They grow out of that consciousness. Compassion flows out of that consciousness. Yeah. Compassion isn't something that we work up. It doesn't come by works, right? But compassion comes with this awareness of being one with everything. It's only natural to love everything when you are everything. It's only natural to feel with everything when we are everything. Peace just seems to grow out of that consciousness of oneness. Because peace just seems to happen when this consciousness of oneness is present. For when we're one with everything, we're not at odds with everything. The fight is over. There's really nothing or no one left to fight with but ourselves when we're one with everything. And fighting with other people in the consciousness of oneness is just ludicrous. It's just ridiculous. Because it's in reality we can see that we're only fighting with ourselves. There are no other others to fight with. Yeah, yeah, yeah. So there's this sense of rightness that comes out of that consciousness of oneness. The sense of righteousness that comes out of that consciousness of oneness, for everything belongs. Yeah. Everything belongs. We belong here. When we feel we belong here, it feels right to be here, doesn't it? Right now, doesn't it just feel right to be here? Can you sense that? Can you sense that rightness, that you belong here right now, right where you are, along with everything else that's going on here right now? It's all right. It's all right. There's really nothing wrong with it. There's really nothing wrong with us. All the wrongness depends on a separate party being right. One party is right and another is wrong. But when we're one, there is no other party. So this consciousness of oneness sets us right with what's right here, right now. This consciousness of oneness sets us right with what's here right now. And see, this is what spiritual awakening is really about. It's waking up to the oneness of our being. It's waking up to the reality that there's really nothing separating us besides our ideas and notions. That the boundaries that we've dreamt up to separate things are not real. We can fly over the United States and Canada and look down from the airplane at the border, and the border is only in our minds. From the plane we see no border. There's no line drawn there. There's nothing that separates Canada from the United States. There's nothing that separates the United States from the ocean. There's nothing that separates the ocean from all the other countries of the world. There's nothing that separates heaven from earth but the things in our mind. So this consciousness of being one with everything, this consciousness of seeing, this way of seeing things without the labels, without the lines, without the boundaries, that brings forth the good fruits of being loving. This consciousness can be cultivated through practice. Through practice. Yeah, and now I hear a lot of people say that different things about spiritual awakening. But I would say that rarely does one suddenly just spring awake. I think most people wake up in stages. I'm not saying at all that there are not exceptions to the rule. I can certainly agree that there are people who wake up in what seems like a a moment's time, you know, where other people just kind of find themselves awake and don't even know how they got there. You know, they woke up in the middle of something. But because we wake up in stages, because we wake up in stages, most of us anyway. That's why I say that the state of awakening, this consciousness of oneness, can be cultivated. It can be cultivated through practice that promotes awareness, you know. Our senses sort of return to our body. We feel the warmth of the sun when we wake up, right? The sun on our skin, and it shines through the window in the morning, you know. And that might be the first thing we feel, that stage of awakening, feeling. And then we'll hear the birds singing. And so hearing might be that second stage of awakening. And this is different for everybody. This is just an example. So some people would be that, yeah, they feel the sun on their skin. Their eyes are still shut. They're not all the way awake. And then all of a sudden they hear the birds singing. And this is all going on long before their eyes ever open, you know? Long before they see, they first feel, they first hear. Maybe their sense of smell comes awake first. And even after our eyes are open and we stand erect, there's a stage where we're, coffee. Yeah, there's a stage where we're regaining our sense of balance, that we're awakening to that, you know. We kind of stumble around when we first get out of bed. We've got to find that sense of balance. We've sort of got to get in the groove with the world around us, right? We got to kind of groove with it. I like that word, groove. We used that a lot when I was younger. I don't think the kids use it anymore, but we used to say feeling groovy, you know. So anyway, to groove with, to flow with, to be in sync with the world around us, you know. That comes in stages. And a lot of times we got to splash water on our face. Maybe have a pot of coffee before we fully wake up, you know. So awakening happens in these stages, you know. And spiritual awakening is really no different. It happens in stages. Growth happens in stages. You know, we grow awake in stages is the way it happens for the biggest part of us. And ain't it funny how when we're young we can hardly wait to grow up, and then when we're 60 years old or so, we just look back and go, where did it all go? How did I end up here? And I think spiritual growth is a lot like that. We just sort of, you know, we just sort of wake up one day and there we are. You know, because it takes time it takes a lot of awareness to actually see all that going on. You've really got to be in tune to see the different stages. Early in my spiritual walk, the Spirit used to have me watch the grass grow, and people laugh at that. But God actually had me do that. The Spirit led me to just sit and watch the grass grow. Just to watch the flowers bloom, and just to watch the sun rise, and just to see these, to wake up and see these stages unfolding all around me. And I believe that people you can develop sensitivity to see and hear and feel these things that we miss when we're not in sync and awake and in time with them. It isn't like we're growing into being something that we're not already. The whole tree is inside the seed. The whole eagle is inside the egg. And the whole person is inside the soul. But we grow out of what we are within. We grow out of what we are within. So, a lot of people look at the ego and it's soil. It's soil to grow out of. We don't have to fight with it. It's not it's not evil. It's not bad. Yet it's not our destiny to stay there. It's not our destiny to wear it for the rest of our lives. So we grow out of what we're within. Yeah, we grow out of it, right? Yeah. And we have really no choice but that. The only thing we can grow out of is the soil we're in. What we are in. The soil of our being. The field of our existence. The only thing we can grow out of is what's here right now. What we are, what we grow out of is what's here right now. Now, during the stage of growth, this stage of growth, who we are at the moment. Now, notice you have to hang with me here. The moment, who we are at the moment, includes the farm. Includes the farm. I like that word, includes. It's more conducive to allowing growth to take place. But who we are at the moment includes the farm. The farm is not excluded from who we are. But who we remain timelessly is not the farm that we are in now, right? Who we are timelessly is not the farm that we are in now. The farm we are in at the moment is who we are in the moment. But who we are timelessly is not the farm. The farm changes. The I am remains consistent, steady. So all our balance, all our steadiness comes out of the I am. All our stability. Stability comes out of the I am part of us, right? Yet the I am is inclusive. The I am is not exclusive. So it's not a matter of I am this or I am that or anything in particular. What I am is I am everything and I am nothing. I am everything and I am nothing. Paradoxically, both at the same instant, I am everything and I am nothing. I am no one and everyone. I'm nowhere and everywhere. In the Buddhist scriptures, they have what they call the Heart Sutra. And in the Heart Sutra, it's written that form is emptiness, and emptiness is form. Form is not other than emptiness, and emptiness is not other than form. Okay? So we're both emptiness and form. We're both. We have a body. We have a body. But what that body in reality is, it's the body of all humanity. It's not a body of anything in particular. The body that we have is the body of all creation. It's the greater body. It's not a grain of sand on the beach. It's the beach. It's not a raindrop in the ocean. It's the ocean. So we're both the raindrop and the ocean. We're both the beach and the grain of sand. We are both the form and that which gives form. So do I have a body? Yes. Yeah, I've got a body. But the body I have is not mine. It's not mine. It's not about me. The body that I have is the body of Christ. It's God's body. It's the body of it's the body of creation itself. It's the whole universe. It's the whole universe without all those lines that we draw on the sand. And if we make the body of creation to be something that we are not, we become disembodied beings. We in our minds anyway, we become disembodied beings. And see, we belong in the body of creation because that's what gives life to the body. That's what gives life to the body. If you take the spirit out of the body just goes back to dust. So we belong. We belong in the body as long as we're in it. You know, we do. We belong there. And a lot of religious dogma would tell you that you don't belong in your body, that the body is wicked, that the body is filthy. But that's really just not the case. It's really just not the case, is it? Yet, so we belong with the body. We belong with it. We're supposed to be in the body. Yet, at the same time, not cling to the form of it. Not cling to the form of it. Think about that. Being in the body, but not clinging to the form of the body. When I can be in the body, rather than clinging to a form of the body. This human body is a form of the body. The bird outside eating the seed is a form of the body. The rabbit that runs across the grass is a form of the body, okay? And it's all one body that I'm supposed to inhabit. It's not this set of hands and legs and lungs and heart necessarily. It's not just that. It's not just that. The body that I inhabit is all things, everything, everywhere, all the time. Everything else is just a form. Everything else is just a form of the body. Just a form. So the body of creation itself remains. It changes form, but the body of creation itself remains. It doesn't. There's nothing that can die. One day this form will go back to dust of this body that I'm using to speak with right now. And that dust will go back into the earth, and it will become food for grass. And it will transform into grass. And a rabbit will eat it. It will eat that grass. And the grass will become the rabbit. and the hunter will shoot the rabbit and eat it, and the rabbit will become the hunter. and then the hunter will return to the dust and become the grass. And it'll recycle. It'll just turn over and over and over. So the body of creation itself remains. But the forms it takes. Those are all subject to time. Those are all subject. The form is subject to time, yet the body itself is timeless. The form is subject to time, but the body of creation itself is timeless. If you see yourself as being merely the form, oh, you'll be in despair. If you see yourself as being merely the farm, you can't have any hope. But when you see yourself as the body of creation itself rather than simply the form of it, then in that consciousness of that being one with it, we can rest, can't we? We can go, yeah, it's all going to be okay. It's all going to be okay. And then when we sit in that spot of okayness, from that posture of okayness, from that consciousness of that oneness with the whole body of creation, and we look back out at the form from that position, from that consciousness, from that clear line of view, then the impermanence of the form brings hope. It brings hope. Because see, hope is born of impermanence. If nothing ever changes, we have no hope. We have no hope. We have no hope. But because form is impermanent, there is hope. There is hope. No matter how bad things appear to be, they will change. They will change. And that becomes very, very clear when we're looking at the world of form from that position of being conscious of our oneness with the whole body of creation and not attached to the form itself. All these sufferings, all of our the things we suffer seem to come out of the attachment to form, don't they? We end up frustrated when we can't maintain the form of what is itself, by its very nature, destined to change. But we try to solidify what we think things should be. And we try to conform the form to our beliefs. We try to conform the form to fit into a world of our own notions and ideas, you know? But no matter how hard we try, the form of things still change. And we can't keep them from changing. And when they change, despite our best efforts, we end up angry. We end up frustrated. We end up disappointed. And we suffer greatly when we oppose change. When we oppose change either in the form of attachment or aversion, of like or dislike. Whenever we're opposing what is, in the form it is, when we oppose what is in the form it is in, we fall into delusion. Whenever we oppose what is in the form it is in, we end up falling into delusion. We lose touch with reality. We go into unconsciousness. We fall asleep. In our resistance to the change. Because what is can only be what it is. Resistance is futile. What is can only be what it is. Resistance is futile. The moon will not rise at noon simply because you will it to be so, or believe it should be that way. The sun will not appear at midnight simply because you think it ought to, or you want it to. Yet, one somehow thinks that his will change the way the world turns. If he did not have that belief, he would not struggle with the world as it is. He wouldn't fight it. The desire to change the world is born from the illusion that he, by the force of his will, can change the course of life itself. Here I would caution us not to overthink this. Not to go off into areas of free will, and if we have free will or we don't have free will, not to get into a philosophical conundrum, but to simply see this simple statement for what it is. Let me say it once more. if we find ourselves in resistance to the way the world is going, to the way it's turning, we need to look at our belief about how much power our beliefs and will power our desires actually have. The will that comes from a consciousness of separation, the will that comes from the ego, will be in direct opposition to the will of life itself. The will of life itself is one will. It's not this will and that will, and this desire and that desire. The will of life itself, the will of God serves the whole body of creation, not just an isolated member in particular. And as soon as we decide that our will be done rather than God's will be done, we tend to lose our sanity at that point in time. Because that's where we lose consciousness of our being one with everything. That's where we lose our sight and become blind. That's where we lose our sensitivity to life as it is. But there's a way back. There's a way back to the sanity, to the clarity, to that original state of consciousness. In what it is, it's a return to love. It's a return to loving what it is, to accepting what is, to be willing to be with what's here right now, where it's at, as it is, when it's there. And the suffering brought on by unconsciousness of that oneness can be mitigated by the practice of cultivating that consciousness. The suffering brought on by unconsciousness can be mitigated by the practice of cultivating consciousness. By the practice. So we become these awakened masters by first becoming disciples of the awakened state, of the awakened state of consciousness. Notice I say that not disciples of this guru or that guru or this teaching or that teaching, but disciples of the awakened state of consciousness itself. Disciples of the teacher within. Within. I liken this a lot to like learning to play a musical instrument. A student will practice his guitar, for example, until he basically becomes it, until it's just as much a part of him as the arm he holds it with. And when that happens, he begins to play it by heart, not by the head, but by the heart. And the music will just begin to flow naturally and gracefully without a second thought. The music will simply, magically, just simply happen when he's become the master musician. Yet the playing of the instrument itself is the practice. And the practice is the playing of the instrument. The playing of the instrument itself is the practice. And the practice is the playing of the instrument. They're not separate. They're not separate. One becomes a master through playing. One becomes a master at awareness by the practice. By the practice of awareness. The master musician becomes a master through the playing of the instrument, and the master of awareness becomes a master through the practice of awareness. So in this sense, there is an act of the will that comes into play because it takes the willingness to practice. You know, diverse forms of meditation, contemplation. The words are insignificant. It's what comes out of them. We practice till we become till we become masters. We practice. We meditate till there is no more meditator. Only meditation. We meditate till there is no more meditator. Only meditation. And when there's only meditation, and there's no meditator, we've mastered the practice. We look until there is no more looker. Only seeing. We listen till there is no more hearer. Only hearing. Yet the looking and the listening must come first. You don't need to know how things unfold to watch them unfold. Yet you do need to watch them unfold to know how they do. So the witness is the most essential. Unless there's a witness, there is no awakening. So it's our practice to witness the life around us, to be here with all of our facilities, all of our faculties, so that our attention is given to what is happening here and now, and now, and now. And having given our attention to the life that is here now, we begin to see how everything that is going on now, in some intrinsic way, is all interconnected. It's all one body of being, one body of isness, one body of being. Here, now. Simply sitting in silence and noticing without judging the world around us. We suddenly begin to see how we're all part of it and not something separate from it. And when we rest in being itself, then we begin to find ourselves becoming one with all that surrounds us. One with that which simply is. And this interconnectedness with what's here is a reality. It becomes plain to see. Our unawareness does not negate the being of things. Our unconsciousness does not negate the reality of the world in which we sleep. Our unconsciousness does not negate the reality of the world in which we sleep. The oneness is here, now. Yet why don't we see it? It's because our minds have been conditioned to ignore it, to contend with it, to dismantle it with logic and reasoning. The world has taught us. We've been conditioned to overlook it, to overlook that oneness. We've been conditioned to contend with it, to take it apart. Considering that, consider also what St. Paul said to the Church of Rome. St. Paul wrote this. He said, "Therefore I urge you, brothers and sisters, in view of God's mercy, to offer your bodies as a living sacrifice, holy and pleasing to God. This is your true and proper worship. Do not conform to the pattern of this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind. Then you will be able to test and approve what God's will is, His good, pleasing, and perfect will. For by the grace given to me, I say unto you, to every one of you, do not think of yourselves more highly than you ought, but think of yourself with sober judgment in accordance with the faith God has distributed to each of you. For just as each of us has one body with many members, and these members do not all have the same function, so in Christ we, though many, form one body, and each member belongs to all the others." St. Paul said that. So this renewing of the mind is all about seeing the different members as being part of the one body. That's what the renewing of the mind is about. It's to bring it back into that consciousness of oneness. It's to bring it back into that consciousness of being the same body. It's the ego that wants to exalt itself over others, to diminish some and glorify others. No. What St. Paul told us is that's not the right way to think. You got to renew, to go back to thinking the way it was in the beginning, to see it as one body. To see people as being one body of creation, not the form. Not the form that the body takes during a certain time, but to see people as being the one body of creation. Right. So the mind has to be renewed. This renewing of the mind has to take place in order to once again see these connections. The ego likes to dissect and take things apart. But this renewing of the mind is not about dissecting. It's not about taking things apart. It's not even about making connections. It's simply about seeing how things are connected. It's not about making connections or taking things apart. It's just about seeing how things are connected. When you see how you're connected to the rest of the body, you'll naturally be loving towards other people. It will come without effort. It will come out of the consciousness of your being one with them. You'll naturally be gentle. You'll naturally be at peace. These things will simply grow out of you without any effort on your own. When that consciousness of being one with the body of creation is awakened. Now the world system, a lot of times when we hear religious doctrines and stuff, it talks about the world. You know, and we have to differentiate between the body of creation that some people would call the world and the world system, or the way that the world thinks, the way that the world sees, the way that the world senses. Because there's nothing wrong with the body of creation. For God so loved the world that he gave himself. He loves the world. Life loves to be in the world. Life loves to inhabit the world. Life belongs in the world. Life belongs in the body of creation. The world is not bad. The body is not bad. Issues arise from a world system, not the world itself, but the way the ego corporately and individually makes disconnections with everything around it, that isolates itself from everything around it, that becomes exclusive rather than inclusive. So this renewing of the mind isn't a matter of reconditioning the mind at all. It isn't learning to think something new. It's not reconditioning. It's not adding more knowledge to it. It's a matter of unconditioning, not reconditioning it. It's the unconditioning of the mind. The renewing of the mind is the unconditioning of the mind. That's what brings about the unconditional love. All the stuff we put together with our minds, that stuff doesn't last. It comes apart. Our beliefs and our ideas and our notions that we confabulate, are things that are manufactured by the mind. And that which is manufactured, that which is made, is not eternally real. It's a form. And the mind becomes subject to many forms of truth. But forms of truth are not the truth. They are forms of truth. Earlier we were talking about not attaching ourselves to the form of the body, but seeing ourselves as being one with the body of creation itself. And here I would say, know the difference between a form of truth and the body of truth itself. Because form is always dependent on time. At one age, I will be 3 foot tall. At another age, I'll be 8, maybe 6, 7 foot tall. Who knows? Okay? The form I take will be subject to time. Therefore, forms of truth may be true in one moment, but in another moment, they are untrue. You see that? That forms of truth may be true in this moment, but in the next moment not be true, because they're a form of the truth. They're time dependent. Yet truth itself, the body of truth itself, is eternally real. It's not a form. When we take form, when we attach ourselves and cling to forms of truth, we suffer. We suffer, yeah. So when I'm talking about being with this body of truth, it's not, or the renewing of the mind, or the unconditioning of the mind. It's not about turning from a desperate state of woe and darkness and misery to the mind of an airy-fairy, Pollyanna kind of a state of mind where we float along without ever having an issue or a problem. It's not about that either. It's more of a matter of just seeing things as they are, without fitting them into our minds. Forms, but seeing how they fit their self into what's around us all on their own, without making them fit in any place, without forcing conformity, you know? Without forcing conformity. The truth is not what we force into conformity. You must see this, that the truth is not what we force into conformity. People often take a form of truth, a truth that is true in this moment and untrue in the next, and try to force that form of truth into a timeless state. They try to prove things are right or wrong. Or in other words, they try to make things true. That really aren't true. They're just forms. But what's real, what's true, is its own proof. We don't need to try to prove anything that's real, do we? What we try to prove is what we believe or want to be real. But what we believe or want to be real are our beliefs and our desires. They're not reality. So in reality, there are no special people. In reality, we are all members of this one body of creation. That's the reality of it. Now say in this body, if the foot falls asleep on us, I mean, we've all had our foot or our leg fall asleep, I'm sure, and become numb and tingly. But say say the foot falls asleep on us, it doesn't become less of a member of the body than the eye. The unawakened state is conditional. Yet the awakened state is unconditional. The unawakened state is a matter of time. And in time, everything will awaken. The whole body of creation. In time, the whole body of creation will wake up. Where one is in time does not negate its being part of that body. Where you're at in time does not negate you being part of the body or not. Can you see that? Yeah. Where you're at in time is conditional. Yet who you are is timeless, is unconditional. So just because the hand may feel the covers on the bed before the eyes see the sun does not make the eye any less a part of that body of oneness of creation than the hand. First and second are matters of time, not of reality. First and second are matters of time, not reality. See this in the words of Jesus himself. He said, many that would be last will be first, and the first would be last. So what matters most is not our place in line, but it's our space of consciousness itself. What matters most isn't what time we're awake. What matters most is that we are a part of a body that is destined to wake up altogether. And this consciousness of our oneness with all of creation, that itself is a pearl of great price. That itself is a wellspring of true knowing. That itself is a wellspring of wisdom. In itself, this consciousness of oneness makes us wealthy and rich. For if we have that consciousness of oneness, we are aware that we lack nothing when we are everything. We lack nothing when we are everything. So it's of much more value to meditate than it is to make money. I'll probably get some disagreement on this, but I'll say it again. It's much more value to meditate than to make money. For what you gain in meditation will far outweigh the worldly gain. To know things as they truly are is a treasure not even worthy to be compared with worldly gain, which is all impermanent. Any effort that we put into our practice that cultivates the awakening is worth the effort. It's worth the pain. It's worth the price to wake up. Now the ego might see it as a sacrifice. The ego may see that as something we give up to get something else, as a means to an end. But in actuality, the pain it takes to wake up is neither a sacrifice or a means to an end. It's neither one. It's not a giving up of anything. It's simply a matter of just giving up. It's not a matter of giving up of anything. It's just a matter of giving up, a surrender. It's a giving up of striving, of trying to be somebody that we're not already. It's simply a surrender in its purest and most pristine form. So it's worth it to suffer somewhat, to suffer some discomfort initially as we learn to sit quietly and sit in stillness. Because what price is too high to pay for that which is priceless? Even if it costs us all our beliefs and all of our illusion and leaves us completely naked and vulnerable, we have to be willing to invest ourselves into our awakening. Now, the ego doesn't like that. It becomes uncomfortable because it's afraid to see what the silence will bring to light, what the silence will reveal. Yet what the silence does reveal, what the silence does bring to light, is worth the discomfort of the ego. It really is. The discomfort of the ego is something that's temporal, that's impermanent. But the peace that we acquire with the revelation of the truth, that is eternal. The consciousness of the oneness that we are, that is eternal. So we have to be willing to be, just to simply be, without. We must be willing to simply be without. When we sit in stillness, when we sit in silence, we must simply be willing to be without. To be without all of our beliefs, all of our notions, all of our desires, all of our compulsions. To just simply be. without all those things that we cover ourselves with, our titles, without all of our conceptions, without all these things that we wear to protect ourselves from our environment. We have to be willing to simply be without those things, to become poor, to be without our beliefs and our notions altogether, to simply be without thinking. To simply be without thinking. To just simply be with what's here. Because it's a pretty certain thing that we're not going to grow spiritually until we can first grow quiet. Spirituality is never a matter of gaining more knowledge, but it's all about becoming free of the limitations that our knowing puts upon us. The Buddha said this. The Buddha said, the reason for my teaching is not for merit or good deeds or good karma or concentration or rapture or even insight. None of these things is the reason I teach, but the sure heart's release. This and this alone is the reason for the teaching of the Buddha. The sure heart's release. A release from our beliefs that have become prison cells. A release from our certainties that have become fetters and shackles that bind our spiritual being. Your beliefs, your certainty, your knowing takes all the wonder out of the world. And when your knowing takes the wonder out of the world, it does not let the world appear to be as wonderful as it really is. Because we don't wonder when we know something, when we've got the answer. We're not all struck by what we know. Knowing takes the awe out of the awesomeness of life. Knowing takes the awe out of the awesomeness of life, and it makes it into a hopeless state of despair. And consider deeply, what have you ever really gained by what you know? We don't grow more appreciative. Our appreciation does not grow when we know it all. What seems to grow out of knowing it all is an arrogant and contemptuous person. The arrogant and the contemptuous are very close kin. Because he who thinks he knows, who has all the answers, that person holds the world in contempt. Yet the truly humble man will know the world as himself. I'm looking at the time here. This is probably a good spot for me to to end this. I'll pop a song on or something, and then we'll see what goes on from there. Thank you so much, people. I always get blessed by being allowed to share my heart with you.